Getting knocked further and further back. Though sin and evil and wickedness are nothing new to the human experience, it feels as if our current reality is more sinister than ever. It seems as if the mask has been taken off, the curtains have been pulled back, the sheets have been drawn. There is no element of shame, let alone a will or a mind to do what is right. To be sure, church family, this is nothing new. We are most assuredly living in perilous times. The problem with perilous times is that perilous times have a way of rendering you and thereby making you feel powerless. And the feeling, not even the actual state, but the feeling of powerlessness on mass scale is never good. The feeling of powerlessness leads to apathy. It leads to an acceptance of peril. It leads to an acceptance of the status quo. Or simply this, the feeling of powerlessness leads to an acceptance of what is and what has been without a will to advance toward a hopeful future. Beloved, no doubt we are living in perilous times which seek to render us powerless. You see, it's perilous when women and survivors of sexual assault are not believed and taken seriously. It can render you powerless when predators are elevated to the highest offices and positions in the land. And I'm not just talking about the Supreme Court. It's perilous when people are labeled illegal and criminal when, according to the law, their offense is only considered a misdemeanor, which is another issue. It can render you powerless when children are thrown into cages and then lost in the system. It's perilous when pundits push lopsided statistics that unemployment in general and black unemployment in particular is at one of the lowest points in recorded history. It can render you powerless when the quality of that same employment is also at a record low. Black people only have $5.04 for every $100 white people. It's perilous when people do not perceive the power of their individual ballot. It can render us powerless if we do not register to vote by October 30th, then actually vote on November 6th. As a sidebar, church family, we do have registration forms in the lobby. We have a candidates form coming up on the 22nd, and even Uber will give you a free ride to the polls on election day this year. So there is no excuse. Beloved, we are living in perilous times, which if we are not careful can render us to the feeling of and then the actual state of being powerless. It's perilous when your own life is affected by these perils and even by the ones that I haven't named, and it can render you powerless if these perils cloud your vision. You can't see a brighter tomorrow beyond the dark shadows of today and yesterday. As the 19th century poet James Russell Lowell wrote, careless seems the great avenger. History's pages but record one death grappled in the darkness twixt old systems and the world. You see, there's truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God in the shadow, keeping watch above his own. And even as the psalmist has declared for us today in the 46th Psalm, even amidst the peril, even amidst the powerlessness, beloved, there is still a God. This God is our refuge and strength. He is a very present help in the time of trouble. Beloved, that's all I've come to say today, and that is that God is still God. Because God is still God, God is still good. Because God is still good, God is still in control. All I've come to say today is simply what the old saints used to say, and that phrase, God is. And because God is, we are. Though the times may be perilous, those situations and circumstances and realities may make us feel powerless, because of the God we serve, as the psalmist declared, there will be and there is power to the people. Beloved, if we the people are going to have this power, living in perilous times, we must recognize that our power does not come from us. Our power does not come from our work, although work is important and needed. Our power does not come from our intelligence, although intelligence is important and needed. Our power does not even come from our money, although money is important and needed too. Church family, our power comes from knowing some things about our God. So the question becomes this morning, in the midst of peril, in the midst of feelings of powerlessness, if there will be power for the people and to the people, the question becomes, just who is this God of ours? Well, child of God, I believe the psalm, the text, give us some clues as to just who this God of ours is. If there will be power to the people, we've got to recognize first that God is protection. Let the church say protection. Scholars and commentators debate particularities out of which Psalm 46 was penned. Some say it was inspired by the deliverance of Judah on the occasion of the Assyrian invasion by Sennacherib as recorded in 2 Kings 18. Some say it was connected to the wars of the 3rd century BC fought among the successors of Alexander the Great. Still others identify Psalm 46 as a hymn that was used during the New Year festival, a general hymn that celebrates the Lord's triumph at the time of creation, a triumph that still has implications for the present time and forevermore. Whatever the case may be, it does not matter, for what matters is the message behind it. While the history of the psalm may be debatable, the theology of the psalm is not. While the circumstances that gave rise to the psalm may be uncertain, what God does and who God is in the psalm is certain. And that is, God, in whatever situation, whether it was a military invasion in the 8th century, whether it was a military conflict in the 3rd century, or whether it was just simply in the imagination of a hymn writer long ago, in each and in all of these things, God has been, and God continues to be, the people's protection. The psalmist said, God is our refuge and strength, very present help in trouble. The thing about God's protection is, sisters and brothers, there is no limit to it. The psalmist said, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried in the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, that even if the very world, even if the very geography around us comes to an end, because God is God and because God is our God, though the world may come to an end, we don't. The face of utter destruction, God is still utter deliverance. The face of complete annihilation, God is altogether asylum. In the face of sudden death, God is still eternal life. While the world is indeed a scary place, church, there is no reason to fear. The God you serve is not a temporary retreat. God is not a Mayday bunker. God is not your plan B, plan C, or plan Z. But God is your eternal refuge. If God can bring order to the confusing chaos to create the cosmos, then surely God is able to protect us from whatever may come our way. God's power is not limited, so God's protection is not limited either. So then, church, why do you fear? Why are you afraid? Let me say it like this. If God be for you, who in this world can be against you? If God raises up a standard against the enemy, why are you so scared? If God is who you say he is, then why are you the way that you are? Hymnologist said, when all around my soul gives way, he then is all my hope and stay. On Christ, the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. Church family, there will be power to the people. It's good to know that God is protection, but we also need to know that secondly, God is also provision. Psalmist gives us an image in this psalm of a river. We know that rivers supply water, and that water is vital to the survival and the growth of the people. rivers and waters make life possible. Rivers make farming possible so that people can eat. Rivers make transportation possible so that people can get from one place to the next. Rivers make trade possible so goods can get from one place to the next. Yes. Rivers make cleanliness possible so that people can wash. Yes. The interesting thing is the psalmist places this river in the city of God, which is a reference to the city of Jerusalem. Church family, this is why they put those maps in the backs of your Bibles. Because if you look at one of those maps, you will find that there is no river that runs through Jerusalem. So either the psalmist was misinformed or the psalmist had knowledge of something else that was going on. I would argue that it is the latter instead of the former. I do not believe that the psalmist lied, so the psalmist must have been aware of a higher truth than what the eyes can see. There must be something special about a fortified city, about a thriving city, about a city that has been given the nickname the City of God, for it to not have an obvious or natural water source or supply. For our purposes today, there is no other explanation other than God's provision must be that river whose streams not only supply, but make glad the city of God. That is something to shout about this Sunday, saints. In a world where resources are scarce, in an economy that is inequitably distributed, in a community where the wealth gaps are appalling, it's good to know that our river doesn't ebb and flow with the seasons. It's good to know that beyond what our eyes can see, that in the midst of what may be a barren land, in the midst of what may seem like no opportunities, in the midst of what may seem like no resources, in the midst of what may seem like utter lack and destitution, it's good to know that the God we serve is himself our source and our supply. That's why the psalmist said, God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that by her. The psalmist is trying to communicate is that even in our darkest moments, even at our point where we are in the most danger, even at the point where we are most tired and helpless, God is our help. Love, as I get ready to take my seat and as we get ready to go to the Lord's table on this Communion Sunday, if there will be power to the people, we must not only recognize that God is protection, we must not only recognize that God is provision, we must recognize that thirdly and finally, God is proven. God is proven. Psalmist declared in verse 8, come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. Church family, the amazing thing about this psalm is this psalm writer's quiet confidence. It's amazing that the psalmist is not dismissing what is going on around him. It's amazing that the psalmist is not over-spiritualizing his circumstances. It's amazing that the psalmist is not denying his reality. The psalmist is responding to the gravity of his reality by recalling who God has proven God's self to be. The psalmist declares that it is God who made the desolations in the earth. And even among the desolations God has made, God in his goodness has still brought order in creation. He has shown us that there is a purpose and a plan for God's activity and God's movement. Ultimately, what the psalmist is trying to communicate to us is that ultimately who God has proven himself to be throughout history, throughout the world, and throughout personal experience will be the same God proves himself to be in the future. While the psalmist, and like the psalmist said, while the fact of the matter may be that war is inevitable, while the fact of the matter may be that destruction is unavoidable, while the fact of the matter may be that lack is more abundant than abundance, while the fact of the matter may be that we all have an appointment that we cannot cancel, that we can always count on death and taxes, the truth of the matter is that while all of these things are inevitable, God's final victory over them is inevitable too. Let me say that one more time. because I don't think the church heard me on Sunday morning. The truth of the matter is that while all of these things are inevitable, while war is inevitable, while destruction is inevitable, while disease is inevitable, while despair is inevitable, while depression is inevitable, while lack is inevitable, while we all have an appointment that we cannot cancel, the truth of the matter is that while all of these things are inevitable, God's final victory over them is inevitable too. The psalmist said he makes wars to cease to the end of the earth. The psalmist said he breaketh the bow. The psalmist said he cutteth the spear in sunder. The psalmist said he burneth the chariot in the fire. See, God has proven himself in his powers because humans can start wars, but humans can't end them. Humans have strung their bows, they have sharpened their spears, they have loaded their guns, they have fashioned their chariots and their tanks, they have stacked the powers of this world, but only God can bring an end to this warring madness. Let me say it this way, your enemies can do whatever they want. And even you can do whatever you want. But God always has the final say. On this World Communion Sunday, I'm glad that God has the final say. I'm glad that God has the victory. I'm glad that God has all the power. That he gives that power to the people. That is what churches all across this our God's great globe come to celebrate today in World Communion Sunday. We come celebrating the fact that God sent his only begotten Son, even the Lord Jesus Christ. And he sent him down to this earth to show us the way. We celebrate that one dark Friday, out on the cross of Calvary, when man fashioned their weapons against God, Jesus died on the cross. The prophet said he was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. The prophet said he was a man of sorrows and acquainted with our grief. Church, what we celebrate is that though he died, he didn't stay dead. What an early resurrection morning. Jesus got up with what? He got up with all power in his hands. In church, he's proven that he's got the final victory. And because Jesus died and got up, he's got the power to deliver. He's got the power to set free. He's got the power to heal bodies. He's got the power to make whole. He's got the power to give new life. He's got the power to grant eternal life. And because he got up with power, he's given his power to the people. And I'm getting ready to take my seat. But I leave you with the words of the song. And since he's given power to the people, all you need to know, my sister and my brother, is that you need to be still and know that God is God. You need to be still and know that God will be exalted. You need to be still and know that God will be lifted up among the heathen. You need to be still and know that God will be exalted in all the earth. You need to be still and know that the Lord of hosts is with us. You need to be still and know that the God of Jacob is our refuge. Church, you got power today. You got God's power in your soul. You got resurrection power on the inside of you. So be not dismayed. Whatever betide, God will